Join UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Hi everybody, we are live here in our UnitedWeStart Roundtable broadcasting discussion. We are welcoming you, and we have hot topics to discuss today. And with us is Alan from Ireland, and Matt from the US, and Michael here from Switzerland, and myself. So as Alan will not be too long with us, we have given him the choice to start, actually. And are you accepting, Alan?
Yeah, cheers, Detlev. I'm sorry, unfortunately, I can only hang around for about 15 minutes, but there's so much to talk about, and even when I do my own show, there's only so much I can fit in because there's so much going on in the world. So if you want to really get into it now, let's talk about the topics that are out there. A lot going on at the moment. The likes of the Epstein case, him being arrested, and Epstein Island apparently being on fire. One or two people on the internet have mentioned that the actual island was put on fire by a direct energy weapon to hide the evidence. And the little black book has been brought out and people's names are on it. And we also have all the earth changes that are going on at the moment. There's weather patterns are just gone wild. There's countries experiencing snow where they never had snow. And there's earthquakes in certain states in America. And there's floods in one place and there's droughts in another. So there's massive changes going on. Also, a lot of the Christians on YouTube are talking about the rapture on July the 17th or in around that time. Now we are in Mercury is retrograde at the moment, which means that there's going to be an element of chaos. People are going to be kind of all over the place. They'll probably be arguing with your mother, your father, your friends, your family, and kicking the dog. And IT and technology might not work. That's what happens when Mercury is in retrograde. So all these things are going on, plus a plethora of other subjects. So if you guys want to take your pick, or if you want to just generally talk about it, as I say, I'm only around for another 10 minutes or so. So, whatever you want to, whichever subject you want to shoot the breeze, Detlev, go ahead.
Detlev, you are mute.
Detlev, are you there?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Okay. So we will definitely cover in depth the sex scandal on Orgy Island and what is surrounding all that and why it's happening and so forth, or some backgrounds. I would appreciate that, and also the migrant attacks are accelerating here in Europe, and especially in Germany. Germany jumped up to the third country in Europe in terms of deaths of women. So it's something like 180 women per day are killed, mostly by migrants.
Wow.
That's very high.
Yeah.
Very.
And And the other thing is also the war in Iran, the possible war in Iran. I mean, they are building up forces there. I mean, all the tanker incidents. There was one 2.5 weeks ago where 2 tankers had been, incinerated somehow. Probably a false flag attack. And the other day it was here an Iranian oil tanker captured by the Brits in Gibraltar, entering the Mediterranean Sea. They arrested the captain and first officer. And another attack here happened on the 11th of July, 7/11, right, in front of the Iranian coast. Also a British tanker, which supposedly was attacked by small Iranian boats, and a frigate of the Brits had fire and what have you. I mean, it's also sounding like false flag. So that's another issue. But anything else is welcome, whatever you have.
Okay, I'd like to jump in because I'll be leaving shortly. The one thing that's going to affect us directly will be the banks. A few weeks ago, I was told that Deutsche Bank would have major problems. They're in major problems at the moment, and they're one of the big banks. And if Deutsche Bank goes down, it's going to be 10 times worse than Lehman Brothers in 2008. So Citibank and Deutsche Bank are the big ones. Now, as people might know, Deutsche Bank are now laying off 18,000 staff. So they're culling the herd in the bank. The other banks that also are going to be affected by this will be the likes of Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Bank, NatWest, Barclays, Citibank, Wells Fargo, and there's a few others. Santander is another one. So all these banks are going to be affected. Now, there is kind of a reprieve if these banks decide to get their act together and get things sorted. They might be okay. But I just posted up an article there on Facebook, and it says here, it's in the actual Daily Mail, which is an English newspaper over here, and the Daily Mail says that America only has 8 weeks of money, and we have been told this already. Let me just see. Let me just get the article there. I'll just read the caption on it so you can see what's said. It says here, U.S. government to run out of money in about. U.S. government could run out of cash and default on its debt in just 8 weeks, says Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin. Now, well, we were told actually that the banks are in dire straits and actually don't have any money, so they've actually ran out of cash already. So I would say and advise everybody to make sure you have a few $100s, a few €100 in your pocket, because over here in Ireland during the week, our Bank of Ireland was having problems with the ATMs and people couldn't get money out of the ATMs. So there's something happening with the banks, and it's going to get worse. So just be ready.
Yeah, the bank run is definitely coming, but we shouldn't forget. First, Deutsche Bank is more or less Goldman Sachs, right? Secondly, with cash or money, let's put it this way. This is absolutely under the control of Rothschild's central banks. So if they want to, they could give us the money we need, but they don't want to. It's a crisis situation which is manufactured by them. So
I'd have to kind of argue the point there, and I'll tell you why. I know people will say that the Rothschilds have loads of money and they can just print the money. They can't. We've been told that they can print money, but they don't have the proper codes to have it as legal tender. And that's why, if you've noticed in the press and in the news, the Rothschilds have been doing a car boot sale with all their property and all their paintings and bits and pieces because they don't have any money. And yes, they might have the print plates to print money, but they don't have the proper serial numbers, which they have to get off the central bank, and that's being controlled. If they did have the money, they wouldn't be doing a yard sale and selling off all their stuff. And it's been in the news that they've been selling everything. It's common knowledge. So that's just my take on what we've been told.
Yeah, could be.
I'm skeptical of that.
Yes.
I'm entirely skeptical of that.
That's okay. That's fine. No harm being skeptical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Alan, as you will have to leave, just give us another point you would like to put in a round table.
Yeah, I just mentioned there about the, as I say, there's a lot of Christians on YouTube talking about the rapture coming up on the July the 17th, which is this Wednesday. Now, we've had a lot of this over the years. Apparently, the rapture is just a program that was put out there. It's just another program, a new age kind of program, so it's not something to be believed. But look, I'm very open-minded to things as usual. And it's just interesting that so many people on YouTube, all the Christians are talking about the rapture and that it's coming down the line. Now we are I'm not an astrologer in any way. I'm not into, astrology is it's a little bit of an interest, but not much. But when people talk about retrograde, it means, not metro, Mercury retrograde. It just means that we're in a very volatile situation where, as I say, you're going to be giving out to your friends, family, and having arguments with people and kicking the cat and all that. And technology won't work, and there'll be problems, and your car might break down and all that. And this is most astrologers will actually say to you that, there's metro. Why do I keep saying metro? Mercury retrograde has this effect. So change is coming. And there's things in your life that are going to be changing. Now, also, a lot of people are experiencing, and a number of people I spoke to, even last night I was speaking to 4 people, and they agreed with the same thing. A lot of people are feeling that they're like a plane circling the airport, and they're waiting for clearance to come. They're waiting for it's like they're waiting for something. They're not getting involved in anything heavy or anything complicated because they feel that they're waiting on something to happen. The other thing that they're experiencing also is that people are not getting into anything involved or heavy. Or the other thing is the things that they were interested in, and they're no longer interested in. They're chopping and changing their mind. And people are saying, God, you're very fickle. You're changing your mind all the time, because we're in this kind of transition stage where our life is changing, and we're just trying to find the things that now interest us. So these things are going on. This is what people are telling me and what I'm seeing across the board. I don't know whether you guys are experiencing that, but this is what's being said to me.
Well, change always occurs, is that if you pay attention to it. We're changing here in the United States something drastically, and that change is accelerating. I can see that, but change always occurs.
Yeah, change is inevitable. I do agree. Change always happens, but it seems to be more prominent now. It seems to be on a very personal level. At this time, especially at this time, everybody feeling the same all at the same time seems a bit weird. Like change, as you say, everybody makes a change in their life, but everybody's feeling the same energies, and it's all happening at the same time, which is a bit kind of coincidental, or maybe just synchronicity in there somewhere. But this is what's being said now. As I say, I'm very open-minded. I'm an observer, and I'm watching what's going on, and I'm listening to what people are saying to me. And I'm going, okay, that's interesting. And I even feel this idea of being an airplane waiting to get clearance to land, I even feel that myself, that I'm not getting involved in anything too in depth, because it's as if something's going to happen, and there's no point getting involved in anything too convoluted, because I need to do something different. I need to change my mind. I need to go in a different direction. For how long I have to wait like this, I don't know. I'm just going with the flow and going with the universe. So that's really what's going on in my space at the moment. But while I have the microphone, chaps, I'm going to have to cut short and make a move. As I said, apologies to everybody, but just life gets in the way. It's just the way it is. But thanks for having me on and giving me the space to actually talk and put over my views. I'm sure you guys will have a great chat about the things that are going on, especially with everything else, and things that are being exposed. I do think we are in good times at the moment. I know it looks difficult for a lot of people, but we are in the process of change, individually, spiritually, globally, and even the planet is in the middle of change, and we can see all that happening. And maybe we are here for a reason because we're part of that change. And maybe we will look back, maybe we're going down the birth canal, and this is the hard bit. This is the screaming and the shouting. And when we get past this stage, then we'll be at the other end of the tunnel, and we look back and go, wow, that was some ride, that was some experience. But chaps, Matt, Detlev and Michael, thanks for having me on. If anybody wants to tune in to circleofwhitelight.com, that's my radio show every Sunday, 7 to 9 GMT, and that's where you'll find me. Thanks, chaps, for having me, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Take care, Alan. Stick around a little while next time.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, it's just family life gets in the way. It has to be done, you know?
Yep, we all have that. Take care.
See you. Bye-bye. Okay, so we heard a lot, Matt, from Alan. Are you interested in commenting, and we pass it on to Michael, or?
Yeah, so I appreciate Alan's optimism, though I am not so optimistic. Sitting here in America, watching my country be destroyed from the inside is horrifying to me. It's disgusting, and I'd like to talk about that at some point, because I think America's done. We're done. It's over.
Yeah, well, you could say the same thing here for Europe, at least parts of Europe. If you, basically what I'm expecting and hoping for is a change for the better. So if we're talking change, and even if we're talking rapture, I would hope that this is coming now for the better. For the better.
We can hope, right? We can always hope.
Yeah, sure. Because you never know what happens. If we all knew what is going to happen, I mean, we have certain anticipations and propositions and ideas what may happen, but we certainly don't know. We don't know. Even if
we don't. But it looks bleak for me, though.
Yeah, if you say it's over for the U.S., you could be surprised. Maybe something is going to happen which you are not expecting. So, everything is possible.
Possible.
Yeah.
Let's get Michael in there.
Yeah, Michael, why don't you step in and give us your point of view on the subjects which Alan was talking about and Matt?
First of all, I think it would be premature for the rapture because, first of all, the Antichrist has to incarnate. So that's on the schedule. And then we have to wait the results on what kind of an effect he has on the human being. He wants to bind us to our physical body and to give us only materialistic thoughts in our brains. And if he's successful, then I guess it is time for the rapture. But if not, usually, I mean, according to the world schedule, the rapture is way in the distant future. So it's like in 1,000 years ago, people expected in Europe, so the world is sinking, but yet nothing happened. So it was those days it was a very spread kind of an opinion and a very spread kind of a attitude that the world is sinking, and but then people found out that nothing happened. But something which was insignificant to them that did happen. About 400 years later, people.
You're cutting out.
Of course, the science came. The sciences came. That had a good aspect and a negative aspect. The good aspect was that people started to think clearly, to think scientifically, to have the scientific methods that they produce. That is very positive. The objective thinking, but on the other side, they focused their mind only on matter. That was the negative thing.
Right.
And also what happened, their intellectual development increased and their moral development decreased. So that is also one thing which the results we reap these days. Because, for every step that we do in knowledge, we should do 3 steps in moral. If we don't do that, that has its aftermath, and that's what's happening now, unfortunately.
I'll make a prediction. I'll make a prediction.
Go ahead.
On Wednesday morning, the 17th of July, as these Christians are running around with, screaming rapture, we'll wake up, have breakfast, and go to work like we normally do. And the people that we think are Christians or consider themselves Christians will still be here. Just my prediction.
Yeah, this is possible. Yeah.
Well, I remember 2012. What was it? 2012, when the Mayan calendar said the Earth was going to explode or destroyed or whatever. People thought it was the end of the world, and I thought, no, I'll get up in the morning, have breakfast, and go about my day as I normally would. And I did. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
But that's only fear mongering, That's what they do, and that is helping the Ahrimanic spirits because they live out of fear. If people are in fear, they don't know to think rationally what to do. If something is not in order, I have to think clearly. I have to think straight. Okay, what can I do about it? How do I approach the problem? And if I'm sitting there and shivering and shaking, then I cannot do anything.
Exactly. You're 100% right.
What these forces want to do with us. And we have to really counter-react to those kind of impulses. Otherwise, we're trapped. We're just acting like one, how shall I say? No, I don't, better don't say it. But one woman that is shivering, sometimes she should get her act together and think, okay, now this is what's happening. I have to do this and think straight. And the problem can be solved.
There is a generation here in America, we call them millennials or snowflakes. These people, and I experienced this just the other week, are so emotionally fragile that they cannot think. And I'll give you an example here. I went to our local bicycle shop and ordered a bicycle. I wanted to get a bike so I can ride around and get a little bit of exercise. And the guy is back there. He's like, mid-20s, young guy. Says, yeah, okay, you put on a deposit and we'll order the bike. That was a Tuesday. Friday I called. The bike still wasn't ordered, but they said it finally got ordered and it'll take a week. I get there the next following Friday. He's back behind the counter, and I asked him, well, where's my bike? And he goes, well, his business week is 7 days. And I just told him bull pucky. And he freaked out. He freaked out. You should have seen this look of terror on this guy's eyes. And he starts mumbling to himself, I've got a customer that's upset. I've got to make a phone call. And what do I do? And he's doing this in front of me, and he's having this meltdown because somebody dared challenge his BS, right? Somebody dared challenge his lie and his smug attitude about how he can just manipulate people through deception. And I saw through that, and I called him on it, and he panicked. Yeah. That's all. We have an entire generation like that in America. So that hoping that these people can sit down and calmly think rationally, Michael, not going to happen. There's a whole generation like that here in America.
Yeah. Well, that's sad because equanimity is one of the very good virtues that you should have to tackle anything, not only spiritually speaking, but equanimity in everyday life is very important. Otherwise, you don't get anything done.
They've been taught this through our school indoctrination systems. Not to think critically, to be triggered, and to be fearful because everybody's trying to discriminate against you somehow. You're always a victim. You can never be masculine. They teach this in school now about toxic masculinity, as if to be masculine is toxic, and that's an aggression against other people. And now they've even got in the United States, and I think maybe in Europe, drag queen storytelling time. Yeah. For kindergartners and first graders, right? And this is, to me, just the most sick form of indoctrination. These kids are innocent. They have no need to be taught about transgenderism and guys that like dressing up as girls because they have some kind of mental, issues. When I was a kid, I used to like going to the library, sitting down, and the librarian would read us these stories about, three little pigs, and she'd become really animated, and, it was great storytelling. Now they got these mentally deficient men who think they're women doing the same thing to our kids. And there I saw this video of little kids sticking dollars into this half-naked man on stage because like he was a stripper. We've got a whole generation and a new generation now being taught this mind-bending stuff at such an early age that I am not hopeful for the future, because these people cannot think beyond their own personal victimhood. They can't. It's not within them anymore.
Yeah, it's a genderism which is very, very bad for all of us, and that's out of the Rockefeller initiative, which took place in the early 70s. So since
Matt, during my time in the U.S., there was something like the what was it called, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
You might remember. And I thought those days, what the heck is going on? That was really sick. I once was invited to go to a cinema in San Diego, and I said, "What is this?" I mean, it stinks. I mean, I felt like leaving the theater. I couldn't stand it anymore. And I see that is only the progression of what the roots is from that Rocky Horror Picture Show. It comes out of that.
Exactly. It's an agenda. It's an agenda to warp the minds of children so that they cannot think when they grow up. Then if you cannot think beyond your victimhood, you cannot question government, and then that's exactly what they want. They want to control you in the state style of the communist Chinese. And that's the model that they're wanting to pursue for the rest of the world. And if you're stupid and triggered by the most benign thing, then you cannot fight the oppressor. And that's the agenda.
Yeah, and all the everything you do, to criticize or so will be called racism.
Exactly. It's racist to be anything anymore. I wanted to talk about how America is being destroyed. Is this a good time?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm going to go on a little rant here, and give you some points as to why I say that. Okay, why I say that America is doomed. This is not America anymore. I served in the military, and I love my country, and I believe in what it stands for. This is, to me, the greatest country that's ever existed on the face of the planet. It was the first that assumed that people were sovereign. You didn't have an emperor or monarch of some kind ruling over you. You were your own sovereign citizen. And that, to me, was one of the greatest advancements in human culture and politics and society. And since then, we've really grown as a country to be one of the richest, if not the richest, and most powerful in the world. But there's a lot of forces now tearing that apart, and it's fashionable now in America to hate America. We had just had the Women's World Soccer Cup, right? And the American team won, and there's this stupid, retarded team captain. She misses the irony of it all. She's team captain for this team that represents the United States. But then she gets on TV and says, because it's, generally when a team wins a big championship, they get invited to the White House, right? It's just because it's an honor. We pay, honor to the country, and then the president, they get to meet the president and all that. And she says something really stupid. I'm not going to the effing White House, and then she says something about disliking Trump. I think she used F Trump or something like that. And I'm thinking, this is not right. This is not, you're representing the country, but yet you hate the country enough that you would belittle it like that. So they win, and they have this parade, and they're in New York City, and they've got all the confetti flying, and she's screaming, "Yeah, I deserve this." And then she gets really foul mouth and say, the MF word during her speech there. And I'm thinking, this is the kind of role model we have now, teaching our young daughters, and being a role model for our young daughters. I mean, this really stupid human being is a role model for our kids. And I thought that was just so disgusting. I can remember when I was working over at Nike, the Brazilian soccer team and the women's Brazilian soccer team and the U.S. women's soccer team had an exhibition game for us out there at the Nike campus. And then that was the time when Mia Hamm and Brandy Chastain and that group won the World Cup, right? And you compare that group and how they behaved with such class and dignity to the Americans now. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And like we were talking about, these little kids are being taught from very early ages all these nonsense values so that they can't think. But here's more. Here's more why I say America is doomed. We're in the middle of at the beginning of a presidential election cycle. So there's the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, right? So the Democrat Party has something like 20 plus candidates. 20 plus candidates running. So they had a couple of debates here a couple of weeks back, 10 at a time. And the Democrat Party used to be called the Party of the Working Man. Not so anymore. The Democratic Party now is the party of illegal immigrants. They care more about illegal immigrants than they do about American citizens who elected them to be in power. Get that, right? So one of the debates, 10 of them up there, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they were asked by the moderator, would you support health care for illegal immigrants? Raise your hand. All 10 raised their hand. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. They're in this country illegally. Now you want to take my tax dollars and pay for their health care? Are you kidding? I mean, that's socialism to its maximum level, where you take money from the citizens and give it to illegals before you even give it back to the citizens. Another point. They were talking about abortion, and who would support abortion, which is I like to say who supports killing babies, but they say they couch it in pretty terms, women's health rights, or anyway. So they asked one of these retarded people, and he's a congressman. Okay, they ask him, would you support abortions or support women's health care, basically abortions? And he goes, yes, and I would because I believe it's a right, and I would support access to health care for transgender women as well. This is an elected representative serving in Congress. He's thinking that guys who think they're girls, who dress as girls, will need abortions. I'm sorry, dude. Science is going to tell you that men can't have babies because they don't have uteruses. But this is the kind of people that we have running for president in the United States. Okay, and they hate America. So America's rush to the left, to socialism, is just full speed ahead, and it's naked and in your face. They all try to out-left each other. They're all trying to out-socialize each other, just so that they can, because it's popular. So I'm afraid that even if Donald Trump gets elected for one more term, it's just a stopgap. The guy is ineffectual. Everybody's against him. Everybody in the world's against him. I guess we might have a slowing of the encroachment of socialism. But once he's out of office, based on what we're seeing now, as soon as he's gone, we're going to see them roll out higher taxes, start demanding people register their guns, which is a precursor to removing the guns. And America's over. You look at what happened in Portland just 2 weeks ago. The Antifa is this group of thugs that mask themselves, dressed all in black, and they go beat up people that they disagree with politically so that they shut up. Well, they beat up this Asian. Okay, they're anti-fascist, right? And they're supposed to be for the gays and the illegal immigrants and all that, right? That's who they're supposedly supporting and fighting for. This gay Asian reporter, he's not even white. He's a minority and he's gay. You'd figure he'd be one of their best buddies. No, because he reports on them accurately, because he tells the truth about what they do. They beat the snot out of him. He had to go to the hospital a couple of times because he had a brain hemorrhage. He had bleeding on the brain. And the Portland police did nothing to stop it. Did nothing. They beat up another guy. He had to have 25 staples to sew his head back together. And the cops did nothing. We have an elected mayor in Portland, Ted Wheeler, who told the cops to stand down, or they have a stand down policy. And so these Antifa thugs can physically assault people with impunity. Dare you try to defend yourself with some kind of weapon and you get arrested. That's the kind of America we're talking about now. And then you've got this retarded idiot who used to be a football player, Colin Kaepernick. I mean, he lost his job because defenses were able to read him, well. So his career fell apart. But upon upon leaving, he was the one that started kneeling down during the national anthems, which is really disrespectful and very low class, by the way. And in fact, I went to a game where I saw him, and I was like on the 50-yard line. He was directly below me, kneeling down with a couple of his buddies. I have pictures of it, and I thought that was very disgusting. Well, Nike, the shoe company, released a new sneaker for the celebration of our Independence Day here a couple weeks back, and they had what's known as the Betsy Ross flag on there. A circle of 13 stars on a blue background in the corner and alternating red and white stripes. And that was to represent the 13 colonies that had won their independence from Britain. This retard goes and tells Nike, well, that's a racist flag. It's a racist symbol because it represents oppression of people. That's not a real argument. It's not an argument that anybody has ever heard of in history. We're kind of proud to wave our flag. So what does Nike do? This failed quarterback who can't get a job, they took his marching orders and removed the shoes from the shelves. We hate America. They're teaching everybody to hate America. It's very fashionable now to hate America because it's a racist country. If you think you want to have a border security by building a wall there, they call you a racist. If you want to deport criminal illegal aliens, they call you a racist. Well, illegal is not a race, folks, but they teach people, and it's fashionable to parrot these hateful things about America. And it's accelerating at every turn. And Donald Trump, bless his heart, I think he's trying, but he's got to fight an entire establishment of the New World Order. We're forced to deal with it now on the corporate-controlled media. They call it the deep state, but you and I call it the New World Order. Well, he doesn't even get support from people in his own Republican Party. Okay, they don't support him one bit. They don't back him one bit. So he doesn't get support there. Even within his own administration, in the Justice Department, in the FBI, they try to sabotage what he does, and he gets attacked relentlessly from the Democrat Party. Harassment, and they know. They told us this story for 2 years, this narrative of how Russia colluded with Trump to steal the election from Hillary Clinton. All lies. 2 years of more of that. And then finally we get a report that says, yeah, there was nothing there. But they still say, well, the report says there was collusion, and they're still trying to go after him for that, even when the report says none. So he doesn't get a break from the left. He doesn't get a break from the courts. Even the Supreme Court this week or last week ruled against him. What do you want to do? What did the president want to do? Something so outlandish as to ask on the census that goes out to every household. That you have to. The Constitution says we have to have a census every 10 years. So on that census, he wanted to ask, "Are you a citizen of the United States?" Even the Supreme Court of the United States says, "No, you can't ask that question." Get this. This is the United States of America, and you can't ask people if you are here a citizen? It's illegal to ask citizens of the United States to state so anymore? How crazy is that? How crazy is that? That is just insane. This whole country has gone insane. I see it every day, and it's disheartening. It's totally disheartening. Just the insanity of giving health care to illegal aliens, and you can't ask people if they're citizens of the United States. Here's more craziness. New York and Oregon, where I live now, decided that it was okay to give illegal aliens driver's licenses. Back in 2016, we had this on the ballot. Should we give illegal citizens licenses? 63% of Oregonians said no. What does the legislature do under a Democrat governor? Oh, let's give it to them anyway. See, the reason why is because once they give them a driver's license, they can register them to vote. Now you got all these illegal aliens voting in American elections. How crazy is that? How stupid and ridiculous is that? I am not optimistic about the future of America. I mean, as soon as Trump is gone, we're going to get a Hillary Clinton clone, or even far worse, far more left than she is, like this Bill de Blasio or this Beto O'Rourke, these really clown-looking stupid people running for president. We get one of them and we're done. America's gone. I mean, there's just no way outside of a violent revolution that we save this country. It's over.
Yeah, that's the following question. I mean, we have similarities here in Europe as well. I mean, especially Germany. They want to abolish any nationalism because they want their global new world order to be brought forward. So they are fighting against any nationalism, and that has been done by propaganda and infiltration and propagandization and what have you. But, we always look at the US as the only country left in the world where the people are, do have weapons. And there's a certain amount of or a certain group which could, like patriots, they could possibly do it. I mean, they could basically take over, couldn't they?
Yes. Okay, so out here in America, I live in a county. Get this, I live in a county where last year, or was 2016? Yeah, in 2016, we passed a resolution in this county that said if there are any state or federal laws that encroach upon the Second Amendment, that it cannot be enforced in this county, and our sheriff is the one that would enforce that. So if they say from Washington, well, you got to register your guns, it's not going to be enforced here. And if they say, well, now you got to, they're going to couch it in these terms, buyback, right? We're going to buy back your guns. Whoa, wait, the government is buying back the guns that I bought from the government? That don't make sense, right? So anyway, that's how they're going to couch it. But here in America, we have a lot of people who own firearms and have lots of ammunition. By the way, I coined the term, the phrase, you cannot have my guns, but you can have my ammunition, one bullet at a time. I did that, okay? but there's a lot of veterans here too.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of veterans. And so we can jump into those tanks, we can jump into those helicopters and airplanes and use it effectively. We know how to set up command control structures. We know how to set up communication structures, right? That was my specialty in the Air Force. We could do that. And yes, we could have a revolution, but what would you have afterwards? You'd have to start all over from scratch, which is actually, to me, isn't a bad idea. So maybe there's hope for America still, but I don't think there's a peaceful way to save America. There's none that I can see, because if we continue with this same election system that is rigged, and now illegal aliens get to vote, we're never going to vote ourselves more Donald Trumps into office. That's not going to happen, because I've seen how the political system works here in America. Anybody who's patriotic or constitutional in a major party. In fact, I built this guy, Mark Brunel, I think his name was. I built his website. He was running for Congress for the 1st District in Oregon here. And he never got support from the Republican Party, because he didn't value the New World Order agenda.
Yeah.
And so if you don't support the New World Order agenda in Israel, then you don't get support at all, and you'll never get elected.
Right. That's how it looks like.
Yeah, so I don't see us electing our way out of the problem we have now. The issue is too pervasive, from social media clamping down on and banning, people of conservative voices or patriotic voices or nationalistic voices, totally banning them all. To the war propaganda news that we see on the corporate controlled media. There's no way I can see us having any kind of meaningful effect on change in America. Donald Trump is the anomaly, but he's just a stopgap. From what I'm seeing now, the dive into socialism is so rapid. Trump out of the way, we're done. We're done.
Yeah, I mean, there are rumors that they might take out Trump in the end, maybe in November. Some dates are covering November of this year, where possibly things like that could happen. I think the 3rd of November. So it would be, that would be an option for the Democrats to win the game. And then it's over. Then it's certainly over. But on the other hand, I mean, if there would be a revolution, a second revolution in the U.S., and there would be fightings going on, I mean, what would be your feeling? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I know the predictions to be made are difficult, but do the people who would revolt have a chance to win?
I don't know that. I'd like to think so. But
I mean, we know.
There's a lot of patriotic people who serve their country, and the bulk of the left-leaning society lives in the bigger cities in America: New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA, Portland, Seattle, those kinds of places. But you get outside of the cities, most folks are generally American-loving people. So if they were to collectively move forcefully against, whatever this edifice is, then maybe we have a chance. I don't know. Okay, just for the NSA guys listening in, I'm not advocating violent revolution or violence. Okay, I'm just making a prediction, just to make sure.
What happened. But my information is, I don't know whether you can confirm it, that China is owning a lot of land and a lot of assets in the U.S. So what would happen if there would be a revolution in the U.S.? Could it be that an outside force like the Chinese or Russians or whoever it would be would intervene or would come to help, or would even fight the patriots? I mean, this is also speculation, I know, but...
You ever see that movie Red Dawn?
Yeah.
Red Dawn was, I guess, Soviet Union landing troops in America, trying to take over. Maybe they'll have that kind of scenario. I don't know. There has been, though, speculation that the UN has forces and material pre-placed in the United States should that occur, so that they can bring in UN troops in order to quell any kind of domestic disturbances.
Yeah. But it's hard to say, right?
What's that?
It would be hard to say whether this would happen. I mean, there are interests of China and Russia in the U.S. I mean, they are owning quite a few assets.
Right. Well, yeah, sure. And they would own they own a lot of land or businesses here. Yeah. But how much military force they could impose on America, I don't know. They'd have to mobilize a whole lot of folks, and I don't know if they do that. Maybe they just keep to themselves and let us destroy ourselves internally. Why bother sending troops?
Right. It's a logistical adventure as well. So.
Yeah, but that's a New World Order agenda, is to destroy America. America has to be destroyed so that there's nobody to stand up against the New World Order. So you have this global organization now, this global bureaucracy like the European Union. Now it would be the Universal Union, or whatever they want to call it. It'll be the same thing. So this deliberate destruction of America is working. I don't know how many Americans are awake. The people I associate with, the people I talk to in my circle of friends and family, I would say my family is pretty out of it. They don't pay attention. They don't know what's going on. They don't want to know what's going on. Sleepwalking is their way of coping with life. My friends, though, the ones I talk to, they're pretty much not liking what they're seeing and how things are turning out in America. I know when Trump has his rallies, there's tens of thousands of people. He has these rallies in sports arenas, and he'll fill them up. But you'll go to a Democrat function or some kind of event, and there's only a handful of folks that show up. So maybe that's an indicator. That's an indicator of how many people in America are actually paying attention, or awake, and are against this New World Order. And maybe this rush, this headlong rush at full speed to socialism might wake up a lot of people, and maybe that helps. But I don't see that happening because of the electoral system we have and the courts that we have. I mean, where the Supreme Court says that you can't ask illegal aliens if they belong here in this country or not, we're screwed.
But it's the same thing over here in Europe. I mean, in Germany, it's the same thing. So they are spending billions on migrants, refugees, whatever you want to call them, and they don't have the money to support their own poor people.
Yes.
That's how they do it. And everybody's asking, where do you get the money from to support migrants if you could have spent it on us? Family programs, more children and so forth, it could have been done. But they
don't want to. They don't want to. They want to destroy the national makeup and destroy the heritage that you have. And I really like Europe because of the deep culture that's developed there. When I was there, it was really neat. You can go see a cathedral that's 1,000 years old. Here in America, our oldest churches are a few hundred. So that's, to me, was real neat. But they want to take that culture and destroy it so that you have no identity. Once you have no identity, you have no loyalty to the place or the culture or the people, and therefore it can be more easily manipulated and managed.
Absolutely, and that's why they are attacking Christianity as well. I mean, Christianity itself, especially under the Catholics, is a disaster itself. But they are reinforcing here Islam, and in Europe, and they are saying in Germany, Islam belongs to Germany.
Yeah. What?
Yes.
What?
They're propagandizing, and the people are actually following this. Even the church people are saying, yes, that's right, Islam belongs to us. Can you imagine?
Wow. That's okay. So you're seeing even in Europe, and I'm glad I'm talking to you because, this helps me understand the scope of this all. You're seeing the same kind of thing in Europe as we're seeing in America. So what does that tell us? The New World Order is a global agenda, and they're doing the same things to destroy people's cultures so that they cannot fight or the tyrant.
Absolutely. And that's why they are also now ruining us financially. So they are breaking down the Deutsche Bank, for instance, and many other banks, as we discussed in the beginning. So we don't have any money. So we cannot fight at all. We cannot buy things to defend ourselves and to feed ourselves. That's what's coming next. The Hunger Games are starting.
I should go back and watch the Hunger Games. I thought I watched maybe the first half hour of it and got bored because I thought it was a really far-fetched, dumb idea for a plot. So I was like, turn this off. Maybe I should go back and watch that because maybe there's clues there.
Absolutely, and they're showing us always what is going to happen. Also, these pet goats number 2. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever seen this video. That's an animated video which is showing us what they are going to do to us. With the Antichrist in there and the destruction of the Notre Dame church was in there, and also the destruction of the pyramids in Egypt, you can see. And so that's one of the next steps which might come, and things like that,
Can you put that in the chat room? Maybe we can
take
a look at that.
Do that afterwards, because I have to look it up first. I don't know where I put it.
I saw an article today. I mean, this is how insane it is on how we how we do things in America. So we've got this new organized government entity called ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Those are the people that and try to enforce our immigration laws. So they have these holding facilities where these illegal immigrants are kept until, or some of them, a lot of them are just let off on the streets because there's just now no room for them, right? They're coming in just floods. So the ones that are being held in these facilities, are awaiting their, judicial process. Well, ICE is going to, starting tomorrow, go around and start deporting people who have been given their last notices that they need to leave the country. And these are criminal, real bad guys. This MS-13 gang, they're real bad guys, drug running, murder. So they're going to go around and start rounding them people up like that. Well, there's this movement now in America to abolish ICE, even from congressmen and presidential candidates, right? And so at this ICE facility, protesters, get this, took down the American flag and raised the Mexican flag in protest. Get this, if you love your Mexico so much, just stay home, go back. Why are you protesting being sent back home if that's really where you want to be? Just go back to Mexico. That'd be fine with me. Just take down my flag, put up the Mexican flag. Why? This is America. You like Mexico so much, go back.
Yeah. Well, Matt, we are heading up to a break now on top of the hour. And when we get back in the second hour, we will continue, but we will also have Michael come in, maybe as the first speaker here in the second half of our show. And he can take his point of view and add his thoughts. Is that okay, Michael?
Yeah, that's fine.
Michael, just so quiet back there.
Well,
I wanted to say something to Matt because I was talking to some Mexicans before.
Let's do that
after the break.
Yes, we are on a break now, so see you right after that.
UnitedWeStart. We explore the New World Order, finance, science, health, and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you.
Sons, as I write you this letter, of days past and days yet to come, and the message of freedom, the message of freedom. I stand at the edge of the pages of history and lessons unlearned. It feels like these pages are remaining unturned, but boys, it's no mystery. Children, I'm sorry to leave you this world in a state of disaster. It was given to me in a similar state, but I woke up so late in the game, now it's spiraling faster. 'Cause freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something more. As God is my witness, I'll be a slave no more. Boys, listen close, for our souls may depend on the actions we take and the causes we choose to defend. So treat every man as a friend, and live your own lives in their divine processions, and transform your world with your selfless expressions. Reach out your hands, in time we'll understand. Children, one day I'll be gone, and you'll have to remember these words and be strong as you cling to each other, your family, your faith, and your father's song. You've known this all along. Well, freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something more. As God is my witness, I'll be a slave no more. The message of freedom endured every tyrant or second-rate despot the world's ever known, and for one simple reason, the people have kept it alive. And with no end in sight to the level of violence, that man in high places will sink forth to silence the will of the people. In you it must survive. Freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something more. As God is my witness, I'll be a slave no more. Well, freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something more. As God is my witness, I'll be afraid no more. Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, to be purchased with chains from our necks to our feet? Forbid this, Lord, I know not what is left.
Yes, hi, this is Detlef here from Wake News Radio, Wake News TV from Switzerland, off Wake News from Switzerland. And we are in the second half of our today's roundtable discussion of UnitedWeStart, and we have a lively discussion, some rants, but on very, very important issues. And we listened to Matt here in the last part of the first hour, and we want to give Michael the opportunity to step in and give his point of view on all the subjects we had discussed, and also if you want to challenge Matt. Michael, are you there?
Before we do that, just wanted to remind our audience that it's July 13, 2019, just to make sure that you know what the date is. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Matt. Michael.
Okay, well, one thing I wanted to say and I wanted to stress out is that for me, I don't think in terms of nationality or patriotism or these kind of things, because they seem deemed to be too narrow for my perspective. Because what people should be really looking after is that they have self-knowledge and that their soul development, their development of wisdom, and that's actually a Christian approach, that this should be the first kind of thing, and all the other things will come automatically at hand. So the first concern to me is how sound and how much is the moral development of a human soul? And second, how much is that human soul striving for wisdom? So these are for me the higher criteria than being a patriot or a non-patriot. So that is one thing. So actually, I'm striving for sound spiritualism, basically, and I'm sort of, I don't believe in these worldly affairs, because for me they all have a smell, and all governments, basically I'm a spiritual. How shall I say? I'm a spiritual. That's how I would define myself, because.
Breaking up. Can you repeat this, please?
I said I would consider myself being a spiritual anarchist. So that this word anarchy has been put in a bad connotation, because when I say anarchy, I mean that we should succumb to the rules of cosmic ethics out of act of free will. So basically, we are organizing ourselves in an anarchistic way, but we should succumb and bow down from the cosmic ethic, because there is an ethic and there is a cosmic plan, and we should realize that plan and then act accordingly out of a free will that says, yes, we recognize the cosmical ethic, we recognize these spiritual plans, and we bow down before them and take them as an act of free will, as our own. So that is the basic approach that I would have. So, when you think about in terms of left and right, and these are all earthly things, but then we have to think, what was the original definition of left and right? Well, then you go back in history, then you find out the right was always the status quo, the perpetuation of the status quo. That means a powerful group of people should rule over another group of people. And the original left approach was that the people should be equal and everybody should have equal rights. So these kind of things was the original, because left and right, it was in the old English Parliament, where the left side were these kind of people that I just defined, and on the other hand, where the people that supported the royalty and these kind of things. So it's very difficult to think about these things now. But now what happens in the US, I think people have lost their common sense. They don't have any kind of values. They act superficial. It is like when you're in an airplane and somebody took off the stick to control the airplane. So it is going up and down and left and right without any control. And if you don't have self-knowledge, if you don't have a guidance, an inner spiritual guidance, you become like this, and that is programmed by these people, by the cabal. They like these kind of people. It's like a nutshell in the ocean. It goes however the wind goes, you know. But when you have one sound kind of coordinate system of values, then you strive for your goals and for your ideals. And people have been stripped of their ideals. In a way, I agree. Patriotism is a sort of like a collective, an ideal made out of collectivity. And it goes down to the blood forces as well. It is connected to the blood forces. It is a sort of a guidance, but I would strive for a higher guidance. And that higher guidance, as I said, is self-knowledge. Who am I as a human being? What is my goal? How do I stand in this cosmos? How is this cosmos working? And how can I be an honest, worthy servant of these cosmos or of the godly forces? That is my kind of approach, how I would, like to see myself, at least in an ideal version of it. I know that I won't be 100% successful with it, but still I would strive in along these terms. So what happens, as I said, through the neoliberals today, everything is based on a material matter. Everything is based on materialism. People have been stripped of spiritual values. Everything is determined by economy. You know, it's like animals. Animals only look that their stomach is full and that they're breeding. That is their main thing. But human being has to go higher. Human being is a philosophical being. He is a spiritual being, and he has to also attribute to those values, to these virtues. Otherwise, he's dying. And that's what these Ahrimanic forces want to do. They want to bind us towards materialism. And the really tragic thing is that with this attitude, with their thinking, humans don't realize it, but they create elementals. That means they're beings that are being created by the humans, by their behavior, by their thinking, by their thoughts, by their actions. And these elementals will rule and use that power. And that's what I think happened in the US and worldwide even. That people are being their mental capacities are being taken away, and they produce, they produce these kind of low elementals that drag them down. And the same feeling I had, I was talking about this Rocky Horror Picture Show. When I was watching that movies, I felt that is the story behind it. It is the creation of low elementals which have their leverage on the collectivity of human thinking. And I would say that if people, again, strive for a spiritual approach, for self-knowledge, and for a responsible action in everyday life, then automatically these other things will come into order. And that's what I'm hoping for. And that is the battle between good and evil. That is the equal battle between light and darkness, the eternal battle between light and darkness. It's just exactly that.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. And it's also the sexualization and the genderism, which is enforcing the sexual interest. And now, approaching this time where they will cut all the financial ties, we will get into the Hunger Games. So we are back to the basics as the animals are. So we are just fighting for food. This is the next step. And being interested in our sexual life. So that's the only two things which they are heading us towards. And that could be their strategy. I mean, to make us animals, right?
Yeah, that's correct. But the thing is that we have our soul, and our soul has knowledge of our state in the spiritual world. It has a subconscious, a collective subconscious knowledge, and that's why people are unhappy. That's why people take drugs. So because they know it, they cannot stand the discrepancy between the status quo and what their soul somewhat in the dark distance remembers. So that's why we should reconnect ourselves. That is the meaning of religion. Reconnect ourselves to our spiritual heritage. And if that happens, I see we shouldn't be alarmed. Everything will come into order again. But if it doesn't happen, then I wouldn't be so optimistic.
Right.
Like I was saying earlier, though, I mean, they've taken that ability for critical thought from the newer generations. How do you it's not going to happen. I mean, a handful might wake up and learn and to become adults, an actual, critically thinking adults. But from my perspective, from what I see, from my interaction with the general public, we're far from that.
But see, like the craftsmanship in the U.S., they took away the capacity of the blue collar people. They knew how to produce things. That is okay, of course, also on a material level, of course, but you also need some practical thinking. And they took that away and brought that to China and to other places of the world. So this American craftsmanship and that died off. And I bet you now in the industrial so-called old industrial countries, maybe Europe is a little bit better off, but what happens in the US, if everything has to be produced in the US, God, I don't know how that would happen.
No, we don't have that talent. You're right. We closed thousands and thousands, something like 60,000 factories here in America, and we moved them to China.
Yeah, that is the neocons, but should it be slapping them on the fingers? Well,
Trump's trying to rectify that, and it's happening slowly. He's removed regulations on the energy industry and coal and steel. So now, we've got that sector at least prospering. I think America is the largest energy producer in the world currently and has been since 2016. At least that's what I hear reported.
Yeah, but I mean, it's craftsmanship. People
right. Right. People can build things. It can engineer things. We don't have that talent, and I don't see that in our new generations either. It's not optimistic.
Well, I mean, in Steiner School, for example, there is different periods and epochs of things. You learn how to build a house. I mean, that's the old Neanderthalians knew how to build a house. I mean, that's the faculty that everybody should know. Every child, all the children in the school should be taught how to build shelter, how to build a house. I mean, that's the basics. And they're not being taught because they shouldn't be taught, because they should be acting like brain amputated idiots when the problem comes.
Brain amputated idiots. I like that phrase. I think I might steal that from you. Because I see these people in Congress. There's one really stupid one, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's as dumb as they come, and these are our leaders. When they're that stupid at that level, I don't think we're going to have much better results in the general public.
Well, in my time, we called these people TBs. I don't know what. I don't want to use the words, but you might know what I mean. B is for brain, and T is for something else.
Well, I don't know. I the word I use is retarded or stupid, but maybe lobotomized. But how do you?
Brains.
Brain amputated.
I didn't want to use that word, but that's a bit rude. But anyway.
If the shoe fits, right?
That's true.
I used to joke about when I used to have to drive a lot for work. Joke about these idiot drivers that they don't follow the rules of the road and pay attention and really are unsafe. I used to tease that there goes a brain donor. Donated their brain to science.
That's right. But I think in a way it's pathetic because they don't realize it. They're like a caricature of themselves. They don't realize it, that it's like they're walking outside of their shoes, basically.
Yeah, but guys, remember we were talking about this in terms of those guys who are conscious and how maybe like us who can see things as the others can't, and we are discussing issues like truth and so forth. It is a sender and receiver issue. So if they haven't got the receiver, they will never get the message. And I think that's the gap which we have to somehow overcome, and hopefully something is helping us.
I like the idea of divine intervention, though I don't think it's going to happen. Really, you look at. I'm sure it's a phenomenon that you can observe in Europe as well. You look at how glued people are to their smartphones anymore. Nobody talks to one another. Nobody socializes.
Right.
Nobody makes friends, and you can see a group of people sitting together instead of chatting. They're focused on their phones. Right. This medium is making people more stupid, and it's a scientific fact. I've seen reports on this, and so as long as we have that technology that diverts their attention from realities of life and gives them this distorted picture, this matrix picture of reality, I don't think we have hope.
Yeah,
I know I'm sounding down today, and I'm not optimistic. I used to be. I really used to be, but it's gotten bad. It's really bad now.
The U.S. needs something like the gilet jaune, the yellow.
What is that? The yellow vest.
Because I have some contact with some people that are involved, and they discover new doing things together in community. They help each other, so that old family structure spirit, like the settlers had when they crossed the Rockies.
Yeah.
And before, the French people were very egotistic. Everybody was looking for and after their own business. But now they help each other. They ask what they can do for each other, and that the government doesn't like it. So they destroy the huts. They were in these roundabouts. They built huts, partially on private property and partially on public property. So the police destroyed all the huts that were on public property, but private property, they couldn't do it. So still there are some huts left, and they sit together, they discuss things with each other, and there's groups of 20 to 100, and they sit together and discuss the issues. That is something which is giving hope. And the same thing should happen in the U.S.
I'd like to think that we could have that. But as I mentioned earlier, if you have a gathering of patriotic-minded folks, and number one, the corporate-controlled media will call you a white supremacist group or a white nationalist group, even though you're just there to, say, support freedom of speech. Then they will unleash their Antifa armies against you to beat you into submission and silence you. That's what's going on in America now. And God forbid that you try to protect yourself, and then they go after you for trying to protect yourself from the oppressor.
I mean, if you meet on somebody's property, and it doesn't have to be public property, but you meet on somebody's property and you join each other and discuss things, that is nobody else's business.
Well, that would work. That would work. But from what I've seen here locally, I mean, there's this group called Patriot Prayer Group, and in the media they're demonized for being, white supremacists, when all they are is, people that support America and Christian values, right? And they have their rallies, and anytime they're out there, Antifa shows up and starts beating on these people.
Well, these Antifa, actually, that is the opposite. They call themselves Antifa, and they're really fascists. They they're coming in the guise of being Antifa, but in reality they act like fascists. That's it.
Well, that's the Orwellian nature of our speak today. Illegal aliens are not illegal aliens anymore. They're undocumented migrants. Global warming is not global warming anymore because everybody figured out that was a lie, so they called it climate change, and they're still pushing that one. It's this Orwellian doublespeak thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what are your views towards the possible war in Iran? I mean, they are building up pressure. They are trying to get a hold on Iran and get everybody in the boat with sort of false flag attacks. Or they also, I mean, the U.S. has asked their friends, to patrol on Iranian coast borders. So. What are you making of that? And the Turkish are sending troops again towards the Syrian border. So is there anything building? What's your point of view, Matt? Is there any information which you can read from the U.S.?
Okay, so yeah, I would think those attacks on those tankers in the Gulf were false flag attacks. They really stunk in that way. I mean, why would Iran, mine a Japanese vessel when the Japanese prime minister was meeting with the Iranians at that day? I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? So you're right. Somebody's agitating, and I'm going to guess the MI6. Israel, Mossad, and CIA are trying to agitate a war. They've been trying to do this for a long time, giving us this propaganda that Iran is the world's biggest sponsor of state terrorism when it's not. I don't recall Iran having anything to do with 9/11 or the subway bombings in England. None of that, right? So they're agitating for war. John Bolton, President Trump's security advisor, and Mike Pompeo are really war hawks, and they're really agitating for this. So I suspect that we might see more false flags to try to draw us into a shooting war with Iran. Israel would love nothing more than to destroy Iran because they see them as a regional political threat. And somebody who can come stomp on our Israel if they really wanted to, and they don't want that. They want everybody under their control. So we want a puppet regime there, just like we had the Shah, to keep the Iranian people under control. So they're going to keep agitating. Now, whether Trump decides to take military action or not, he may be forced to, and that would be a bad move because he's on a re-election cycle, and if he goes to war with Iran, it might not be good for him because it could lose him a lot of votes because people don't want war. But we may be forced to. I'm glad that when the Iranians shot down that American drone, that he didn't respond with military action. I thought that was a very good move of his because as he mentioned, he said the cost would be too great. It wasn't a proportional response. So that was encouraging on his point. But what if he were to be forced by another false flag, like say a bombing in the United States, and then Iran's they have somebody in Iran say yes, it was us, then we'd be forced to go to war with them, and that's a great possibility. I'm hoping Trump stays out of a war, but with people like Pompeo and Bolton and Netanyahu, we might be forced there.
Yeah, well, it has major influence on Europe at least, because we had this gas crisis. I don't know whether you remember the oil crisis in the 70s. It was 73, where the OPEC states basically reduced the oil production, and the autobahns, the highways, were empty. So there was no single car allowed to drive. And then they started, the even numbers, license plate numbers, and then the uneven license plate numbers the next day, and so forth. So that was tyranny pure, also NWO tyranny, because there was no need for such a crisis at the time. And the prices jumped up like hell for the time being. I mean, now the prices are much higher than then, but, it was a shock for everybody. So now if something happens in Iran, this would be, this is closer to us than to the US. It will definitely, bring to us a horror scenario in terms of prices, in terms of, gas availability. So, finance market would go down, and maybe that's coordinated with the Deutsche Bank, go down. So that's a certain, point which I'm very afraid of. I mean, if that happens, then we are in the midst of catastrophe. So,
I wasn't aware that you had a gas crunch in the 70s like we had in the United States. I thought there was the embargo from the OPEC countries to sell oil to America. I didn't know it affected Europe as well. That's news to me.
Yeah. At the time, I was playing in a band, and we had a show, where we had to go to with our band, that wasn't possible. We had to apply for an exception, at the police and so forth, and then finally we got it. And then we were the only car on the Autobahn, sort of.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, that could be the plan, create a crisis like that. And then you create a financial crisis, and everybody has to succumb to the World Bank.
Right. And you have to get the chip, you have to get chipped, and there will be no more cash available.
Yeah.
the market east,
A lot of people are going to not go for that.
Yeah.
I don't care how hungry I am. I'm not getting chipped.
Yeah.
I refuse to carry a smartphone now. I carry a little flip phone. That's all I carry, because I don't like all the interactions of the applications and how the data is recovered by, governments and corporations to build profiles on everybody. I don't like being tracked like an animal with a collar. Yeah,
but I had to purchase one now a couple of weeks ago, because it's the only chance, for me to communicate if I want to do something media-wise. It's the only way. Well, anyways, I'm just building up this scenario because that's also something which could happen in the U.S. as well. It's not just it could be a global thing.
Well, America, like I mentioned before, reportedly is the largest producer of energy now. So if we had, and I don't think we're importing oil now. So if that were to happen, I think we'd be okay. But, we could be lied to, and we're not producing as much. And we could run into that shortage as well. Absolutely. And the other thing is, the oil producing corporations and so forth, they all belong to the few, right? So they can do whatever they like in terms of, prices. And they can say, oh, there's a war, so we have to increase prices. So maybe it's not an oil shortage or gas shortage in your country, but it could be a price increase which could, double the price or whatever, and that's the same issue, isn't it? Yeah, that would hurt. That would hurt people who have to commute for work, that's for sure. Yeah. Because that's a lot more taking place than over here. People are more commuting. It's also the planes. The plane ticket prices and so forth could soar, right? Money to be made in higher gas prices, right? Yes, absolutely. And taxes as well.
we have to raise taxes in order to, build up our defense, and now we have to attack Iran and so forth, and there may be a draft again. Could you imagine?
Whatever happened to give peace a chance? Whatever happened to people wanting peace in the world? Whatever happened to that? I noticed that we're a at least in America, we're a warmongering country. There's no voices for peace here anymore. There's one bright spot. His name is Tucker Carlson. He works for the Fox News channel here. I really enjoy the guy's show. He's the only one that's not calling for war with everybody. But the rest of the media, the rest of our politicians, all seem to want war, continual war. They want war with Syria. They want war with Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela. They're always pushing this war agenda. Absolutely. Where are the voices for peace? I guess if you had a voice for peace, they send Antifa against you.
Well, I tell you, I mean, a few years ago, we were on Monday demonstrations here, filming and giving speeches and so forth, in order to promote peace. And the mainstream media came and reported on that, and very negatively. These guys want peace. They must be right wing. They must be, whatever, terrorists. Can you imagine?
Wow. To want peace, to want people to live together in harmony is a bad thing. Get that. Yes. Get that.
Yeah. And they were demonizing our organization and Wake News and myself at the time. There were articles written about me here in Switzerland and Germany and what have you. So they don't want any peace. Peace is not on their agenda, right? They have the agenda 2030 and 2050, the UN agendas, and those agendas are saying, reduction of the individual freedom, yeah. Also they are moving towards the electrical cars and so forth, which are currently not developed enough to replace the other methods of driving. But they are forcing this, and they are basically laying off people here at Mercedes-Benz, at all the great and big corporations are laying off workers because they have said they want to move towards electrical cars. Can you imagine?
Well, that's pretty stupid, because how do you get the electric to power up your car? Fossil fuels. How dumb is that, right?
But the electrical producing companies are all in the hands of Rothschilds and co. So they basically will reduce their production facilities or capabilities, because they will not have enough buyers, because they want to get rid of us. That's the agenda 2030 and 2050, is to get rid of most of the people.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, from the Agenda 21, which was a 21st century plan, which that one is clearly a population reduction plan, or you can call it genocide if you like, but it's the same plan to reduce the population by 80 to 90%. I mean, I've been saying that ever since I learned about the New World Order back in the 90s, and there's still a plan in place. And if they can reduce the population and just squeeze everybody into their smart cities, because everybody wants to be smart. You don't want to be living in a dumb city, do you? Get everybody in the smart cities, then they can control where you go, when you go, how you go, and if you go at all.
Yes. And if you have a chip implant, because that's the only way you can buy or sell, then you are absolutely depending on their will. I mean, I told you about the banking account. We, for our association here supporting Wake News Media, there's no banking facility possible anymore.
Well, see, you got to play their game. You got to come up with a clever, non-confrontal name. Wake News sounds too awake. You don't want to do that. Call yourself Dumb News or Stupid News, and you'll get it. I guarantee it.
News. Anyway, I mean, no, we are on a blacklist. Whatever change of name you do, if you change the name of the association or put in other people, as soon as we are asking for donations and so forth and giving the bank details, it's a week or two later, it's the account is done.
Wow,
that's how they are fighting us here.
Yep. That's incredible, and they do that here in the United States, and they don't mind playing dirty too. Did you hear that Alex Jones's server, somebody uploaded child pornography?
Yeah.
And they did try to do that to Luke Wadowski too. Send him an email with child porn on it. Good thing he didn't open it, but they
have that
not
too.
above playing dirty.
We have that here too in our chat rooms. They are posting regularly some porn stuff, which I have to manually, take away. So,
That's the Secret Service doing. I mean, nobody else would
Mossad,
do that.
Whoever it is. I mean, they're very busy here.
Yep. Hey, let's talk about Epstein.
Yes,
because I think that case has a lot of implications that could really help turn this around. Because he had Prince Andrew on his private plane on his private island, and I remember when that was going to come out, and this investigation of pedophile rings reaching the royal family.
Yep.
And all of a sudden we had that gunman shoot a bunch of kids. Some Boy Scouts in, I think it was like Amsterdam or Switzerland or somewhere like that, and that took the focus off that, and that news just died. Well, this Epstein, he had contact with the world's most powerful people, including the president of the United States, with his private island for engaging in sex with underage girls. This pedophilia island. Right, they call it Orgy Island. But there's some speculation out there. I don't know how true it is that he might have been intelligence asset, and that's why he was given such a light sentence originally, right? So he could have been being used by intelligence to have videotape of all these powerful people having sex with little girls in order to keep them compliant with what they needed them to do.
Absolutely, and Epstein is also friends with Trump at the time. They had a party together. And you never know what's will still come out. Or maybe Trump was not on the island, but he had connections with Epstein as well.
Right. Well, they were both from New York, and they both moved in those high financial circles. So I can see them having some interaction. But whether Trump was a pedophile and visited the island or got on his plane, I don't see any of that yet. I'm hoping not. It was reported here that Epstein was at Mar-a-Lago, which is his Trump's place in Florida, and he, I got a complaint from staff that Epstein molested an underage girl, and Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. So if that's the case, then maybe. That's all that interaction would have entailed. But here in the United States, since Trump is the president and we must hate Trump, the entire media is trying to make a connection between him and Epstein and diminish the ties to the Clintons. And here's how crazy it is in the United States. There's records, I guess, verifiable records, flight records that show Clinton was on Epstein's plane like 27 times, and Clinton's spokesperson said, "Oh no, he was only on there 4 times." Well, wait a minute, just once is enough. Once is enough. Come on, folks. How stupid is that? Oh, he only molested girls on 4 flights, not 27, like they're reporting.
Absolutely. And also the connection with the other, highly influential people like the Seagram's Claire Bronfman. she had this organization NXYVM or something, which was an executive success program, which was basically, sex trading, trading of young women or girls to do the same thing as Jeffrey Epstein does, and there is a connection as well. And Claire Bronfman has pleaded guilty in that. So can you imagine? She's a billionaire. She's a billionaire of a big corporation. Seagrams is a very influential corporation, which is which has bought up several other companies or corporations. So it's a big player.
I wasn't aware of this.
And that is, that is frightening. So, and she's also, Jewish as Epstein is. I mean, What can you say? I mean, it's like Sumpf. Michael, what's Sumpf in English?
Swamp.
Slump. Yeah. So it's a real. Terrible situation. I mean, there are all different financial organizations and leaders of that involved as well. So this is just coming up. This is all information which is now being brought into the daylight.
I hope it gets brought to the daylight. I hope we learn about all these powerful people and their sick tendencies so that it exposes this corruption and how deep it goes. But I don't think it'll get there. I really don't. I think Epstein's going to have a heart attack and die before he gets to trial and all this comes out.
Could be. Well, be. But, there are lots of people, which are now involved and which came forward also as victims,
Right. And I'm glad the victims are coming forward. So, because they can name names too. So, there's got to be a lot of folks sweating bullets right now about this whole case.
Yes.
A lot of powerful people sweating. And I'm sure if he was tied to intelligence, because they said the tail numbers on, I think it was Michael Rivera reported this, tail numbers on Jeffrey Epstein's plane were the same tail numbers as used by CIA assets. So if that was the case, then he could have been, just their puppet to make all these pictures and films of these powerful people so that they could keep them quiet and compliant.
Yeah. Sorry?
Right.
Matt, there is a connection between these abortions, ritual killings, and seances that these decadent cabal does, because they have now they interview through seances this McCain and Brzezinski, and to establish connection with them, to tell them what to do. I mean, they're doing these things actively, and we should make the connection. They use that energies that they gain through ritual killings, through abortions, all that dark energies, and they use that to make those kind of connections. That is their method, how that works. And we should be aware of these processes that are going on in these so-called dark elite circles.
And that's why they protect abortion like it's holy. We have to have abortions. They even talk about afterbirth abortions. To me, it's all murder, but to them, it's a religion. They have to protect that abortion.
Yeah,
and if it gives the dark side more energy, then sure, I can understand that.
It's black magic. I mean, let's call it out what it is,
Yeah, because here in America, abortion is promoted so much as a woman's right, and we have to make sure that abortions keep happening. Never mind that we're killing children by the million. We couch it in terms that are nice and pretty, like Planned Parenthood or reproductive rights. We don't term it as murder.
It's butchering.
Yeah, I mean it's It's incredible. There was a movie I watched. I had to rent it. I think it was. I'll look for it. But it was about this abortion doctor in Philadelphia, and he had just tons of baby parts in his office. It was horrible what they do with these fetuses and how they get them out. And I've been recently I've been watching these programs on Amazon called The Ghost in My Child, and it's these children who can recount past lives and how they lived, and they can give you dates, times, places, and then you can look that up. Yeah, that's who this person existed, and they have no knowledge of this stuff, right? They're just children. And imagine being a fetus, and having consciousness, and then you're sucked out. Your brain is sucked out, and then you can remember this in your next life.
Yeah.
Would that be horrible?
Terrible.
Yeah, that's what happens, unfortunately.
Oh dear, we have a lot of horror here in this world. As the Pope said, there is no hell, means we are living in hell.
Well, but the Pope is now like coming out as pro-abortion too, right?
Yeah.
It's a pre-hell. I mean, hell is again something else of it, but it's a sort of like a pre-hell. And hellhounds are in power, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we are heading towards the end of the show. We still have a few minutes, but could we sort of wrap up? What's your point of view? Should we start with...
Let's start with Michael.
Start with Michael. Okay. Michael, why don't you give your last thoughts and sort of wrap up your part?
Well, one thing I forgot to mention, I didn't have a chance to mention, is that a banker told me that they're doing fake trading at the stock exchanges sometimes, also the New York Stock Exchange, so that they have, some of the powerful people tell some of the other powerful people to place a deal. And if that deal fails in the hedge funds, for example, then they say we will help you out. If that deal, but we need to get the numbers up, and that's a practice that's going on now. And with this practice, they can sort of extend the failure of the system. Yeah. So that is something important to know, that some of the deals, they're fake.
Yeah. Insider. If you want to, could it be
an insider? I mean, that's the deals are fake, and they place their money, place the deal, and they wouldn't do it otherwise, but they do it in order to keep the figures up.
Yeah.
That's one thing. About Iran, I mean, I've also wanted to say something about this Iran deal. Then that these tanker that got snapped away by the British.
Yeah,
I mean that's piratery, basically. That is the Middle Ages. That's nothing else than that. I mean, you can only seize a vessel if the UN has given you the okay. The United Nations, basically, that's according to the rule. But simply the Gibraltar, the army stationed, the British army stationed there, they simply acted like the swashbucklers,
Yeah, but the British have always been pirates, so it's a piracy corporation. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know how people don't realize this thing, and it's never been placed like this in the news. They don't say, "Our British pirates have seized this Iranian vessel," like that.
True. Yeah, okay. Matt, I'll pass it on to you. Wrap up your...
Yeah, so I'd like to be more optimistic. I really would. I would like to say that all our efforts through all the time we worked together at UnitedWeStart.com, I had my website back in the early 90s, all that work was making progress, and we're starting to change the world as it is. But ever since Trump got elected, the New World Order has had to turn the knob up to 11 to push its agenda as fast and hard as they can, because he's impediment to them, and they were in shock that he got elected. I can only hope that because they're rushing so far to the left that the Democrats, they're not the Democratic Party, by the way, they are Democrats. They are not Democratic. This name is Democrats. The Democrat Party is pushing so far left that Americans will be turned off by that and reelect Trump. Now, who do I see on the horizon beyond Trump? No one yet, right? Maybe Ivanka would be a great candidate, his daughter. In fact, I was the first one to say, I'd be printing up Ivanka 2025 T-shirts. I'll be the first one to do that. And I could do that now just to plant that seed into people's heads. But if once Trump's out, whoever the next person is, that's a new older puppet, a Hillary clone, and which is probably what we'll get, or even further left, like a Ocasio-Cortez, America's gone, and you'll never see it come back unless we have some catastrophic event where people have to take power back manually instead of through the ballot box. I'd like to be more optimistic, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt, for your insight there. I do see rough times coming up. I mean, I see it a little bit like you see it for the US here for Europe, because the migrants influx is so great. It still takes place every day. If you go out in the streets, and I've been in the streets today, you see so many black people from Africa as never before. So it's here, it's in our midst, and those are calm people. Those are nice people, but there are lots of very aggressive and negative and criminal people coming in and murdering other people, especially women and children. So it is really getting very, very dark in Europe, especially in the German-speaking area. So I, together with the financial crash, which is sort of set up, if you want to, plus the Iran war, which is could come, we discussed this earlier, all this together could lead to a complete disaster here in Europe, and could end very, very bad and very deadly, possibly. So it's the same situation with a little difference, but basically it's the same situation as in the US. That's what I would say. So so I'm not so optimistic. On the other hand, I think that there will be solutions, or there will be changes, whatever that means, hopefully positive changes, and we will not be able to see that early enough. That's what I see, so we will be surprised. But that's also written in the last book of the Bible in the New Testament, that the day will come when nobody is expecting it. So things will be a surprise and will be interesting. So that's my point of view. And
can I say one more thing?
Yes, sure.
I think for myself and for our audience, if you're the kind to pray, it wouldn't hurt to pray for peace in this world and the new world order to fold in on itself, so that the powerful people that Jeff Epstein worked with can be exposed. Pray, and we'll see you next month.
Yes, right. And let's have a look when the next date will be. It's most probably the 10th of August, if we are all available. So 10th will be the next the next show, if we can make it. You never know.
The rapture might have occurred and nobody's here to man the computers, all right?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't know what's happening, but we'll try for it, and we target it, and we are very grateful that you are listening, and please support us all individually. You can also make donations. You will find this on our pages. And thanks a lot. And Matt, you want to introduce us to your last...
Yes. We have this little saying that we do at the end of our shows. We've done this for, 11 years now. So we started with United We Strike. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Death to the New World Order.
Right. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, everyone.
Well done. Now we will end the show with a little bit of music, and we will rebroadcast the show. So please stay tuned. There will be a music in between. So thanks a lot for you participating, and please have a good rest of the weekend. See you.
United We Start, fighting for freedom. A group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of a month, 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT.
Up in the sky, there they go again. The chemtrail planes are flying high. They don't want you to know, so they lie and deny the truth. I wonder who they think they are, laying down white lines to spoil the blue. I wonder why, I wonder how people can doubt what they see in plain view. Up in the sky, there they go again. The chemtrail planes, they're flying high, but they don't want you to know. So they lie and deny the truth. They say it's not happening, it can't be. Why would the government do that to you and me? That what you and I see is illusion, is madness, is conspiracy. They say it's just ice. They only wanna talk nice. Can't they see that the atmosphere's changed by the climate change brought by the planes they've arranged? Up in the sky, there they go again. The chemtrail planes are flying high, but they don't want you to know. So they lie and deny the truth. You and I can plainly see that the skies are strewn with whitish goo made of barium, strontium, biologicals too, emitting fibers that grow inside of you, emitted from planes arcing high, while the people below struggle to survive, while the people below breathe, gasp, and die.